Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
Whoever decided that movie was PG, they're crazy. What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood. It's not like they're like out running around with the bears, like, Jungle Book or something. With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
That is scary.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to. Everyone learns to love each other.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy.
And this is Margaret. And this week we're talking about letting our kids feel unsafe in a safe way. I like this topic a lot.
Yeah.
It's something I think about a lot. And I feel like we've done some other episodes about not helicoptering and like how much do we have to play? And people kind of respond and they're like, yeah, I want to be like that. I get it. But how do I stop helicoptering when it feels like there's so much danger, and also my neighbors are going to call CPS if they see my kids frolicking?
Well, it's a good question. And there's also a difference between risks and hazards. So we're going to talk about the difference between those.
I have a feeling that's going to be important information.
Yeah, because we want our kids to take risks. We don't want our kids to put themselves in hazardous conditions, to hazard themselves is what I'm saying.
Right. And it's very, very, very hard as a parent to know the difference between those two things.
And we have a pretty cool interview today, I must say.
Oh, we do, guys. It's kind of our first celeb interview, I have to say, of the podcast. A little later, I am going to be speaking to Evangeline Lilly. You guys know her from Lost. You know her from the Marvel movies. She's the Wasp from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Major cred for my 10-year-old Amy for this interview.
Pretty cool. You were excited about this one.
He's been like running around school being like, my mom is best friends with the Wasp from the Avengers, which is not exactly accurate reporting, but I'll take it.
And she's also a mom, right? And she's also the author of a book series called The Squicker Wonkers.
Yes. And so we're going to talk all about that and these topics with Evangeline in a little while. But we're going to start off with a little perspective, Amy.
Okay. So we want to have kids who are happy taking risks, right? Who know how to do it.
Yes.
And who are comfortable with a little bit of discomfort. You always talk about this. Like, I want my kids to not always have, a pillow beneath them every second of every day.
Yeah.
We want them to know how to experience discomfort before they go off to college, basically.
That seems like it would be a good idea to me. Yes.
Yeah. And so the risk, just like we were saying a couple weeks ago, that like the whole point of making a radical change as a family is that there's some parts of it that might be hard. The point of taking risks is there might be discomfort. There might be some boo-boos. There might be some rejection. But having kids get sort of acclimated to a wide range of situations and emotions is good for them.
Right. And this is the classic rallying cry of our time, which is like, when we were little, we used to drink out of a rusty tin can while riding around in the open back of a pickup truck on the highway. Like, right. But a lot of people got really badly hurt and killed doing those things. And we don't want to do that anymore. So is there a way to introduce the concept of like risk and excitement without without just letting our kids like ride around with no seatbelts and be like, woohoo.
I always start with like, is this a thing I need to worry about? Like, should my kids be exposed to riskier play?
Yes, they should.
So, I mean, you were already there. I did a little research on this and I found a developmental psychologist named Dr. Mariana Brusoni.
You were like, no, I don't trust Margaret. I'm going to Dr. Mariana Brusoni.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm always gonna see what the experts say. So she says, first of all, to back up what you were just saying, she says what we call risky play today, it didn't have a name a generation ago because it was just play. It was just like go down to the watering hole. And my father-in-law used to actually play in what was called a slag pile, like the waste product from coal mines.
Yes.
He used to climb it
frolic
with his friends.
Yes.
Yeah, in the coal dust, like everybody getting like miner's lung as they frolicked on a pile of black dust.
Yes.
That's what he played in. And that wasn't called risky play. It was just called go outside.
Yeah.
And there's good and bad things about that.
As much as I love those stories and I love hearing those stories, I tell a story often. And in fact, I wrote an article for Free Range Kids about my mother who lived in the Bronx growing up and used to spend mischief night, which was the night before Halloween. People don't even know the term mischief night anymore. Oldie Lux alert.
Back in my day.
But filling a sock, they would, my mother, who was like a fairly dignified lady, was like, oh yeah, you would fill up a sock, a black sock with flour. And she's like, and then you would spin it around. And then the famous line is, she would be like a truncheon. And I'm like, oh, of course, like a truncheon, mother. That's what you would do.
As one does.
And then all the kids would dress in black and you would run around in the streets hitting each other with this sock full of flour. And the idea is like, if you came home and your clothes were clean, you were kind of the winner. But if you came home covered in flour, like you had been beaten by many truncheons. That was the big game on mischief night.
The biggest mischief night that in my own childhood was we used to go to like a lake, like a sort of like a state park in the summer. And Labor Day would be sort of the closing day of the park. And just when it would be starting to get dark, it was just a sort of general signal that all the children understood. You brought out the cans of shaving cream that you had stolen from like your dad's medicine cabinet.
Okay.
And we would chase each other around, hold each other down, like fill each other's like eyes and mouths and whatever with shaving cream and then like run into the lake.
Which is like, by the way, not rated for childhood ingestion.
No, like just like kill each other with shaving cream and then run into the lake to wash ourselves off in the whole lake. We'd leave the whole lake with a nice sheen of like Gillette, cool air, fresh shaving cream.
Not good for the lake or your mouth. All the fish from that lake now have like 10 heads.
It was good times. And that was just the way it is. So anyway, Dr. Brusoni says that the reason we have to let our kids do some risks, perhaps not like hazardous to their health, but she says it's better to learn that wet pavement is slippery when you're running and not when you first get behind the wheel of a car.
Now that, guys, I hope you listen to and take in. That's a really good way to think of it. And it's funny, I was thinking like my parents and everyone older than us, basically, like now I feel like when they watch kids play, they're like, be careful, they're going to hurt each other. And I'm like, wait, what happened to you on the slag pile? Like you grew up like just frolicking on a threshing machine. Like, why are you so afraid of my kids like wrestling in the backyard? Like it's somehow, it's not quite as one-to-one as we sometimes think of it. So somehow these messages of like, I played in the slag pile and like drove my grandpa's pickup truck when I was 11, like it doesn't seem to have done them, maybe just because they're older and they've forgotten that stuff. But like, yeah, it's not like I see a lot of like older people being like, although great grandpa Billy Mack is always like, stop being so ridiculous, and like wants to drive his pickup truck with like my 3-year-old sitting in his lap, like down city streets. And I'm like, I'm going to be ridiculous though. Like that seems like a really poor idea.
I met a guy, you know how like people pass through your life, strangers, and like they just like drop like pearls of wisdom that like change the outcome of your life, and they totally don't even remember ever having had that conversation with that person on that day.
Kind of. You kind of sound like you live in a fairy tale, but I'll accept it.
I was at a playground. I mean, when you live in New York City, you spend a lot of time standing around on playgrounds while your kids play. Like you have to take them somewhere to run around and play. And there's a lot of standing around to be done. So I was pushing my kid on a swing and my other one's on the slide. And I just was chit-chatting with this guy next to me. And he's like, see, this is why kids need a mother and a father. And I'm like, well, why is that? And he said, he was watching his kid climb up. And he's like, because the mom will say, be careful, you're going to hurt yourself up there. And the father will say, let me see how high you can climb. And I've really carried that with me. I mean, like in 2019, I'm going to say it doesn't have to be that the woman is cautious and the man is pushing you towards risk taking. But I do carry that with me as like kids need both. Kids need the nurturer and kids need the pusher.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like and it's something that like the gendered stuff is annoying, but like you can do that in your own head. And one of the things that used to drive me crazy on playgrounds is all the time I had other moms like grab my kids off stuff and be like, that's dangerous what you're doing. And I'm like, what? Dude, leave them alone. Okay, so it's dangerous. Like what happens? Like my sister-in-law tells a story all the time about like she used to go out climbing in her backyard and there was a tree and she would get like 30 feet up in the tree. And then there was another tree that kind of connected, but there was a minute at 30 feet in the air that she had to like leave contact with both trees and like grab the other tree. And I mean, you would like if she'd gotten hurt, people have been like, where are her parents? They must be horrible people for letting her try to do that. But the trade-off is this incredible confidence, but it's kind of like, I mean, you hear people say this all the time, like, if it saves one life, it's worth it. It's like, that's a terrible method of thinking, really, because the only way to keep everyone safe is like literally like bubble wrapping them and keeping them sitting at home all the time.
Well, I think if a stroller like guillotines off a baby's finger, that stroller should be recalled now and not when like it happens to 20 more kids. But the climbing trees things is totally different because the kid is learning something from that risk. And that, you know what? That's the difference between a risk and a hazard, it occurs to me.
Okay, lay it on me.
This is a Dr. Brusoni thing, not me. But she says risks are situations that kids can evaluate before making their own decisions. I think I can make it over to that other tree. It's a situation where you can go one way or the other and you play it out. And hazard is a danger that a kid cannot be expected to be aware of or to handle, which is like, she says, a swing set has a rotten foundation, the sledding hill has a big tree at the bottom, or there's a river with a powerful current. Those are hazards. And we should protect our children, she argues, from hazards. Don't let them sled into a tree, but let them decide if they want to, go backwards down the hill in the sled or whatever. That's a risk.
Yeah, that seems to me to make a lot of sense. Although, I mean, I keep thinking we have this tree, a fallen tree in our backyard, and the root ball like got pulled up with the tree. And so it fell over, which is like a pit that's probably 15 feet deep. And at the bottom of the pit is like weird, like craggy branches. Like it looks like a bear trap from like the 13th century, like it's like if you fell into that pit off of the log, you would really hurt yourself. And I let my kids do it, but I think like it wouldn't be hard. I mean, the tree's kind of mossy and stuff. It's like, should I let them do that? Like on the one hand, it's fundamentally non-negotiably dangerous to be crawling on a mossy log over like a spiky pit. It's like, it's insane. But at the same time, they're out playing in the woods. Like, I let them do it, but it's hard on my soul.
So my kids are less like this. They're less risk takers because you guys have woods in your backyard.
Yeah.
My kids, take a taxi across town by themselves. That's
risky in its own way. It's a different kind of risk.
It is. And my kids have, just today, I had my 14-year-old, he has a doctor's appointment after school. And I was like, do you want me to pick you up at school and we'll go together? Or do you want to just take a taxi there and I'll see you there? And he was like, why don't you pick me up? I'm like, okay. But I have over the last year sort of been rolling out like, this is something I think you can handle, because it is, but you have to let them gradually do it. This is what, here's another researcher, Dr. Ellen Sandcedar. She's a professor of early childhood research. And she says good risky play sort of gradually exposes kids to challenging events. And she says that it actually has been proven to reduce anxiety in adults. Like if you climbed trees as a kid, a study has shown you'll be much less likely to have a fear of heights as an adult. You're playing out these anxieties and addressing them in your, developing brain. And if you don't, she says, if you don't get scary situations confronted with them as a kid, then you're going to be an adult with anxieties, or more likely to be an adult with anxieties, I should say.
I mean, this is the call to this because it's not just theoretical. There's been a million studies about, the basic study is that people 50 years ago would go to therapists and be like, my dad was abusive. My mom was an alcoholic. I had a tragedy as a child. Like, I'm trying to figure out this situation. And that young people now, a 20-year-old now goes through a therapist and is like, I feel nervous all the time and I don't really know what my life's about. And it is the change from like, it is a factor of not confronting enough risk and danger as a kid. And like my kids, I feel like I work on this really hard and they still don't confront a ton of danger. I just had a birthday party for my son and it was like backyard run crazy. Like it was a Harry Potter party. We gave everybody a wooden wand. Like we made them, you know, we cut sticks into wands. And they were just running around. And I was like, guys, be careful. Like, I don't want someone else's kid like falling and like stabbing themselves with a wand because they're just running crazy over my uneven backyard. Then we put a zip line up and my husband, of course, put it up. And originally it was 15 feet off the ground. And I'm like, we can't let other people's kids on this crazy thing. Like,
speaking of the husband, like, let me see how high you can zip line.
You're insane. Exactly. Like literally, he was like, this looks awesome. I'm like, it is literally like higher than like the first story of our house. Like, I do not think this is a good idea. But not letting kids confront dangers has such a huge long-term downside. And I feel like I had much more of the wild childhood and I still had this thing. Like when I left home and I was living in the city, I was like, it was literally the first time that I had the thought like someone could just throw me in front of the subway train or like I could get mugged or like something bad could happen to me. It was occurring to me for the first time at like 24 years old. And I ended up developing like a panic disorder from it basically and had to like reinvestigate the whole nature of danger.
Do you think that more risky play as a child would have helped with that? I mean, I'm not sure it's that simple, but do you?
It's not quite a one-to-one, but I think in a lot of ways I had a very idyllic childhood, which like I wouldn't trade for anything, but there is a flip side of an idyllic childhood, which is worth thinking about, that like you're a little bit less equipped to deal with like bad things happening.
I have a quote from Jennifer King Lindley. She wrote about this for Parents Magazine. And she says, if kids constantly have an adult telling them when to stop or when to go, they don't have a chance to develop an inner instinct for their own limits or confidence in their own decision making. So it's not just about feeling safe. It's about like, I know how to make decisions. I know how to assess situations. Is this tree safe for me to climb or not? They don't grow up confident in those things. And that was probably part of your anxiety, right? Like, will I know how to handle the curveball that's about to be thrown at me as I walked on the street?
Well, and I just literally, like when I moved to New York City from like idyllic, peaceful, like suburb with like loving parents who took care of me, I was just like a baby lamb in like Wolftown all of a sudden. And I was like, I felt my role very clearly as like baby lamb. All right, Amy, we have to take a break. We're going to come back and talk to Evangeline Lilly about her book and her thoughts on this subject.
For some of us, tax season is one of the only times that we look at our finances fully. And once it's over, well, that was terrible. And it is completely understandable not to want to think about it for another whole year. But using Monarch and being intentional with your finances in an ongoing way helps you see where your money is going and how you can put your refund to best use.
We are here to tell you, simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or laptop.
Feel aware and in control of your finances this tax season and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code FRESH.
As you know, my husband and I are preparing to send, 3 kids off to college, and I cannot tell you how helpful Monarch has been in showing us our full financial picture, helping us to track our spending and reach important savings milestones. Our weekly meeting, Amy, it's now run by Monarch.
Love it. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple.
Use code FRESH at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com, code FRESH.
Big Deal brands are up to 25% off right now at Designer Shoe Warehouse. You're not going to want to miss this. These brands almost never go on sale. At DSW, we'll give you something to brag about. Like up to 25% off select styles from Adidas, Crocs, Nike, Reebok, and more brands you love. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Save today at your DSW store or DSW.com. DSW, let us surprise you.
Guys, you know today's guest, Evangeline Lilly, from her iconic portrayals of characters from Lost, The Hobbit, The Hurt Locker, and Ant-Man and the Wasp. But you may not know that she spends her downtime creating worlds of her own. She made her publishing debut in 2014 when she first introduced the Squicker Wonkers to the world. Welcome, Evangeline.
Hi.
So you have a children's book, and I will say we get a ton of pitches about children's books, and we don't often do interviews about around children's book authors. But I read your books, and what really stood out to me is that they have a kind of, for lack of a better word, like a creepy kind of darkness about them that I really love.
Good. Thank you.
And that's your world. That's intentional.
That is very intentional, and they're very dark. And I personally, when I was a kid, I was very drawn to dark books. And I think a lot of the reason for that was because I was a smart kid, but I was a terrible reader. And a lot of the times I found that the material that was at my reading level that I was able to read and I was able to digest was often material that was too young for me. And I felt like I was being talked down to or I was being pandered to. But anything that had a darker edge to it, there was so often a kind of wink and a nudge and an understanding between me and the author that I might be a kid, but it didn't mean I was stupid. It meant that I could, they were telling me, I know you still see all the hard things that happen in life, experience them, that you understand them better than adults give you credit for, and that you're able to digest them and that you're curious about them, that you need more, you want to know about them. Whereas I think there's a trend much more today, even than when I was a kid with, our children's generation, to shelter kids from the difficulties of life, the hardness of life, the failures we deal with, instead of teaching them how to cope with those things.
This book, to me, opens up really interesting topics that I want to talk about. One of the things we talk a lot about is like people want to keep their kids safe and they want to keep their kids protected. But how do you explore dangerous, scary things with your kids without somehow like sending them into some abyss that you feel really uncomfortable in? And I think one of the ways to do that is through books. Yeah. Not that this book is terrifying in any way. I don't mean to say like it's lovely and beautiful, but it has a certain dark, creepy edge to it that I feel like in reading it with a child, you get to have a different kind of conversation. And you said in some of the materials, you were talking about your grandfather reading you gory stories and saying like he trusted you with the material. And that really stood out to me. Like there is something about saying to your kid, like, hey, I think you can handle this story and I think we can explore strange and weird worlds together in a way that makes you feel safe, but is kind of going out a little bit on this limb that we can go out on together.
Yeah. And we're going to do that together. And in doing that together, we're going to end up getting uncomfortable. And getting uncomfortable means we're going to find ourselves talking about things we've never talked about before, finding things out about each other we've never found out before, and, hopefully learning things that we would have otherwise not learned together because we were sheltering ourselves and being so careful about where we went. And, I remember reaching the sort of age of maturity, quote unquote, and, 19, 20, going off on my own into the wide world. And even as a kid who grew up in the 80s, which was a much less sheltered time, I remember this feeling of like, how am I so unprepared for this?
Yep.
Like, why is this hitting me in the face so hard that I have literally no idea how to cope with the broader world outside of the shelter of home?
There's been a ton of studies on that subject that talk about like the sort of sheltered childhood, and the outpouring from that tends to be anxiety. That you don't feel ready to face the world. And so a lot of our kind of malaise in our younger people is this anxiety around like, I feel like the goal used to be idyllic childhood, but we're now seeing the blowback from perfectly idyllic childhood is kind of like, I'm not really ready to face anything that ever goes wrong.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that I just absolutely boils my blood is the way in school and in group sports and in recreational activities with children nowadays, We're not allowed to have winners and losers. Nobody is allowed to lose or fail. And in this way, we keep everybody's feelings from being hurt and we keep everybody feeling good. But what we don't do is teach our children anything about how to deal with failures, and they will fail. That will happen to them at some point in their life, and they will be so ill-equipped to know how to cope with that it will internalize in a way that becomes festering and negative. I just don't think that children have been exposed to the darker elements of life in, like you said, in a constructive way. The only way they're exposed to them is when it's a rough slap in the face, because it comes out of nowhere in an environment where they're maybe not safe, or in a situation where they aren't in a position to learn from it in a constructive way. They sort of crumble. Fiction has always been our way of preparing our children. Back when, we were tribes people, they would tell stories of monsters in the dark jungle as a way of A, teaching their children, please don't wander off into the wide jungle in the middle of the night, or you may never come back. But B, preparing the young boys for the time of hunt and the young girls for a time when the jaguar walks into the encampment. Like, so they're not emotionally completely naive to the reality that they're living in. And I don't think we tell those fireside stories anymore. Instead, we just stroke our children and sing them lullabies and say, everything's okay, everything's bubblegum and teddy bears and pretty and unicorns. But we know we're lying. It's not.
We think we're doing our kids a favor by doing that. And it's great to reshape that a little bit and say, like, actually, it seems wonderful to create a magical wonderland for your child to just wander through uninterrupted through their whole childhood, but there's actually a strong downside to that.
Yeah, and here's what I think. I think we need both. I think we need idyllic, beautiful, incredible, aspirational stories so that our children have something to dream towards, so that when they're creating the world they're going to live in 50 years from now, they know that there's better possibilities than what we're doing, because we're not doing it very well, right. And that they can make those changes. I think that's why we need like superhero stories, and we need those pixie and unicorn and troll and fairy stories that end perfectly and beautifully, so that they have that idea that things can improve and can get better and can be beautiful and can be great. Yes. But we also need, and this is where I think there's an imbalance, we also need cautionary tales for modern day brats who just aren't aware a lot of the times, and who are going to school and being told, if you get a bad grade, it's the teacher's fault. If you get in trouble, it's the other kid's fault. And I think we must teach our kids to look at themselves and say, how can I make better choices next time? How was I responsible for my circumstances? And in doing that, we give them so much power and we give them so much ownership over their own lives. And that enables them to go out in the world bravely, confidently, and with some kind of self-assurance. I think our stories tell us, well, if you're treated badly, those rotten bad guys will be punished.
Right.
And then a kid goes to school and they get pushed into the dirt for no reason at recess, and the teacher comes out and goes, why are you in the dirt? You're all filthy. Get in your classroom. And they're in trouble. And they can't make sense of what's happening. Like, why is this horrible thing happening to me? Because nobody's ever prepared them for injustice in the world or sort of told them in their stories and that this happens. And so let's talk about how we deal with this when it does happen.
I'm wondering if you've talked to your marketing people about the catchphrase cautionary tales for modern day brats. I would buy that book. I would gift that book.
I love it. You and I, we are all probably in the same vein. Like, my theory with my kids has always been the best way for them to learn that fire will burn them is for them to stick their hand in a candle flame. The best way for them to learn that knives are sharp is for them to cut themselves. Like, that's how they learn. And I very much believe in allowing children to go out in the world, experience stuff that hurts, and I just see them get so much stronger. And I do think protective parenting has gone too far.
That's what really drew me to them. Like, you can really see that theme reflected. And another thing I like about the books is I like the real air of strangeness. I feel like a lot of children's books are like, these are differences and we have to respect the differences, which, guys, I'm totally on board with respecting other people's differences. But the idea of encountering strangeness as a frightening concept and like having to navigate that, I don't see a lot of people talking about that concept. And I thought it was really interesting in these books.
You just gave me shivers. I love that you picked up on that because it's a really subtle thing. And I've put a lot of subtle things that I don't know that everyone's going to necessarily get into the book, but you are definitely getting it. And the thing that's going to happen, and I really believe in the journey of these stories, because I don't know if you've been told, but there are 20 of them.
I have been told there are 20. I've only read 2, to be fair. But
well, that's because there's only 2 right now, but I've outlined 20. But where I'm trying to get to with what you were saying about encountering strange people, I don't want to miss that, because initially when I ask children when they've only read the pre-show, I ask them, who was the bad guys in the book? And they'll say the Squisherwonkers. And then I'll usually challenge them and say, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Okay, then who was the good guy? Selma. Oh, interesting. So Selma's the good guy and the Squisherwonkers are the bad guys. And we sort of talk about who made good choices and who made bad choices. And we realize that actually everybody made bad choices in the book. And for me, it's a way of talking about the fact that nobody's perfect. Nobody's a hero. Nobody's a saint. All of us are flawed. And then we go on a long 20-book journey where Selma becomes a Squisherwonker. She becomes one of these strange people. And Squisherwonkers as a protagonist, I 100% believe that by book 3 or 4 or 5, if you ask a child, who are the good guys? They'd say the Squisherwonkers, because they're the protagonists. And children will go along with, adults will go along, anyone will go along with a protagonist, no matter how weird or strange they are. And if you tell stories through the perspective of strange people and strange things, it helps, I think, for all of us to encounter strangeness and be more open to it and being more ready and willing to be curious about it instead of afraid of it.
It's really counterintuitive for people, I think. The idea that, like, if you tell kids, like, strange people are to be embraced and accepted, yes, that's what you want them to get to. I agree. But I think by just saying, like, don't ever notice differences and just skip to the part where you accept everybody, like, that's a journey.
Yes.
It's okay to feel frightened and confused by some people. But what if you stay on this journey with them? Do you get to know them? And does that change your point of view versus, like,
exactly,
strangeness is just something to be accepted? You can't ask kids to skip the steps in between.
Well, and also I think it's dangerous to ask them to skip those steps because, frankly, we have those instincts for a reason.
Right.
There are dangerous people in the world. And your kids have very good guts for that. You know, they know. When they encounter somebody that's off, they know. And kids are so much better than us because they're not all often judging the book by its cover. They're judging it by their gut feeling. And, you know, there's even a moment in the book where it's Selma's waiting by the stage and the Squisherwonkers are inviting her up at the beginning. And it says, though the girl was suspicious, her fear felt delicious, and so she jumped onto the stage.
Like, that's the greatest world, but you have to feel it a lot to know that that's a great feeling and not like, I never want that to happen to me again.
Yes, And I think a good, safe place to first, you know, experience some of those feelings is in the safety of a book, right? Absolutely. Nobody's going to get hurt. You know, everyone can, like, close the book and say a little prayer and go to sleep and have nice dreams.
Right. The stakes are low, which is good. We want low stakes for our kids. And it's fundamentally what we're always trying to teach our kids, which is like, go try, we're waiting here. But, like, you can't skip go try. If you have a kid who loves, like, Janie gets a new ponytail and learns to love again, this might not be the perfect book for that kid. I'll have that kid who's just a little odder. I mean this in a good way. I have one. This is the perfect book for them. And I kind of hate this question because it is 2019 and we know how to buy books. But where can we find the Squisherwonkers?
As of May 28th, it will be in all good bookstores across the U.S. and Canada. It will also be available.
All good bookstores. If you go in and you don't see it, start turning tables.
Exactly. It's a bad bookstore. If you go in and it doesn't have it, that means it's not a good bookstore. It's also available on Audible and iTunes in audiobook format with a full soundtrack, sound effects, and myself doing the voices for all of the characters and the narrator.
It's great. I have listened to the Audible version, and it's for a kind of dark book, is the word lulling inappropriate? There's something very calming about it. I don't know why.
I like that. It's
I don't
supposed
mean
to be. You know,
lulling
one of the
boring. I mean, it's not like, I would think sometimes people might think an audible book of like a kind of a, I keep saying it's not really a scary story. It's a very imaginative, slightly dark story, but I would have maybe thought, oh, this wouldn't be a good audible because it would be scary, but the audible book does not feel scary. Check out the Squicker Wonkers wherever books are sold, let's just say. And is there anything else you want to tell us about what you're doing? Where can we get more Evangeline Lilly in our lives?
You know, there's the squickerwonkers.com, and I have just finished filming a new movie that is, talk about dark. I mean, it's a film, a very hard-hitting drama about the opioid crisis in North America right now. So it is worthwhile for parents to make themselves aware of it and kind of know what's going on, because I think it is really relevant. But I have another children's book that I've got up my sleeve that's in a very different vein from the Squicker Wonkers that might be coming down the pipe. So we'll see. But
that's awesome. Like, you've already got a career, but you're like, no, I'm going to write children's books too. Just a doer.
I wrote the Squicker Wonkers when I was 14.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that.
I've been doing this all my life, and acting just happens. You know, it just happens. So I just love stories. I love telling stories.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
In a world where moms just want to cook dinner in peace,
you can have screens for 15 minutes.
Yes! Screens!
An unseen terror takes hold.
Can you please stop talking to me? I can't hear the iPad.
Children who once made eye contact, begrudgingly told you about their day.
It's fine.
Or briefly played outside before complaining they were bored, are gone. In their place are beings that can think of only one thing.
I'm so close. I'm about to beat the evil Space Lord.
They completely lose interest in food.
I can't eat dinner. This kid on YouTube is about to open a new Lego set.
They speak a language you'll never understand.
I can't stop now, Mom. I have to learn Super Fire Blast, because if I don't, I'll be conquered by the Dreamins, and my level will go down to Villager.
They are the children of the screen.
Give me your phone.
Coming soon to a living room near you.
I just need to finish this level.
Children of the Screen is a sequel to last year's Moms of the Screen.
Mom, watch me do a cartwheel.
Oh, honey, I can't. I'm on a timed level of Candy Crush.
Children of the Screen is not recommended for delusional new parents who believe they'll never let their children watch electronics. Okay, we're back. First of all, Evangeline Lilly is famous and extremely beautiful, but also such a nice person.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I like to see that. Her books, Squicker Wonkers,
I think it's an interesting idea. Like, can you take this concept of pushing kids' boundaries and do it through reading and scary stories? And like what she's saying about Edward Gorey is kind of this parallel. Like, are we only reading books to our kids that are like, everyone learns to love each other, versus like those Edward Gorey stories where it's like literally like everyone is being slowly picked off and killed. Mm-hmm. And I think that books are an interesting way to do this.
Dr. Jim Taylor has a book called Positive Pushing: How to Raise a Successful and Happy Child. And it seems to me that his work is very germane to this discussion. Okay. He says that we have been led to believe that letting our children experience negative emotions, such as anger or sadness or fear, will harm them. And so therefore we try to do everything we can to protect our children from those feelings. But when we protect our children from their own emotions, we're actually interfering with their emotional growth.
Yes.
That kids have to have the emotions in order to understand how to manage them effectively.
Yes, absolutely. And like, that's the thing about the scary book too. Like, yes, it's probably easier at bedtime to read a book that's like, this little piggy learned to love all his friends. But like, there is something about like actually confronting scary stuff. And realistically, most kids are going to confront scary stuff at some point.
Just last night, we were talking in our house about Coraline. Have your kids watched the movie Coraline?
I don't know. I don't think so.
My kids loved it. Animated movie. I mean, it's a great movie, beautifully done, really high artistic integrity in this movie. My kids love it. But just last night, my 14-year-old was saying, you know, that movie, whoever decided that movie was PG, they're crazy. Because that movie is scary. And my daughter's like, it is so scary. Will you watch it with us, Mom? We're going to watch it again. And you have to watch it with us because you have to see how like really inappropriately scary this movie is. But they love it. They watch it over and over again. And I thought that was really interesting that my like too cool for school teenager was like, that Coraline movie, that is scary.
Well, it's funny because my 10-year-old is always like, this is inappropriate for a kid's movie. This is not appropriate for me. I can't handle it.
And yet I want to watch it over and over and get into my favorite movie. And will you watch it with me so you can see why it's so scary?
We talked about it in the interview. Like, everyone knows that experience of like seeing something scary as a kid. And like what you do is you go back to it again and again. You're like, I'm going to look at it one more time and see if it's as scary as I remember. Like
the kids in Stand By Me. Yeah. Is that an oldie lux alert?
Oh, Stand By Me is the ultimate oldie lux alert.
Back in my day.
I can't believe you said,
great
is
movie.
That an oldie lux alert? It's beyond oldie lux.
They're like 80 years old now, those boys. And they found a dead body in the woods and they kept going back to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephen King.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that, I feel like everyone understands this issue that we're talking about so clearly, but making it happen in practice is much more challenging because
yes,
like my husband talks with such glee about like riding around in the back of pickup trucks. And I'm like, I'm glad that was great for you. But like, come on, how easy would it be to get killed in the back of an open back pickup truck? And like, I do know someone who was involved in that accident and like it changed their life. It ruined their career. You know, like it's just sort of like, I'm not willing to take that level of risk. So that's why like I think the books are a good option. Like exploring scary topics in books is great. And I was researching, there's this whole thing called Dangerous Playgrounds. There's a documentary, I think it's called The World's Most Dangerous Playground, but it's like there's this whole movement towards making playgrounds more dangerous and more free play and like hammers and nails and like letting kids get involved. And like, that's the thing. If my kid scrapes themselves, if they see blood, they act like it's the end of the world. I'm like, wait a minute. That I do know that I was constantly like scraped to doom all summer long. And this says, a 2017 randomized control trial conducted in New Zealand found that children 6 through 9 who participated in what the researchers called free-range play were happier at school, more engaged with other children, and less likely to report being bullied than kids whose playtime was more structured. We get this, but it's not so much that you have to put your kid in the back of a pickup truck. It's that free play. You guys go figure it out. You guys go explore. You decide what's risky and not risky. You go climb a tree. And I do spend a lot of time in my house. We live in, we're not in the woods. We're in the suburbs. So it's like a wooded backyard. It's not like they're like out running around with the bears, like, Jungle Book or something, but they're playing outside. And I wait. And sometimes I hear a scream and it's like someone's coming in to report they're hurt. But I'm like, you three go outside and figure it out. And I do think that that is key. And the flip side of this is like, whenever we talk about this, the feedback is always like, but in today's world, and it is worth repeating, that every recent study by the Department of Justice tells us that it has never been safer to be a child in the United States than it is right now. So like, I understand the story of like, well, back in the day, but back in the day, it wasn't so safe.
Back in the day, it was the slag pile, and today it's the playground with the bouncy floor.
Back in the day, people were playing on like toxic waste piles. Like it's actually much more safe, but it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because one of the reasons we're all safe is that we're home. And so then sending them out in the street feels dangerous. So it is like, it's not quite so simple as like, it's never been more safe, but it is pretty safe.
Can I give a Dr. Jim Taylor positive pushing like example? Because I feel like
Please do.
I want to sort of say, like, okay, what should we do, right? He gives the example of your kids at the playground, they're climbing, they'll do something, he says. Most kids, they don't love discomfort. So they'll do something and to the point where it gets a little difficult or a little uncomfortable. I mean, grown-ups do that too, right? Like I'll do the high impact interval training class until like I'm really out of breath. And then I might need to take a sip of water and relax for a minute. No, the kids get to that discomfort point and then they turn to you for input. They will look at you. Like, do you see where I am? I'm standing on the top of the jungle gym. And he says, if you say to them, oh, that's a great job. Look how high you climbed. If you should have given them an exit, they'll take it.
Absolutely.
Like, what a great job you've done. You can stop. They will. But if they stop, they won't know what they're capable of, and they won't have the satisfaction of moving outside their comfort zone. So what you want to say in that situation is something like, wow, you're doing a great job, and I bet you can do even more. And if you say that, your child is more likely to face the discomfort, learn something, have satisfaction, learn to manage their emotions, learn to manage difficult situations. Like that's the goal, to say like, wow, great job. I bet you can do even more. That's the what to say in these situations.
I mean, I agree. And I would go a step further, which is you not being there makes that whole thing a lot easier to navigate.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids are now 10, 9, and 7. I think I got that right. And I mostly try not to be around when they're playing. I try not to play with them as much because I think it does allow them to be like, go out and play. And like the chances of something bad happening are higher, but the chances of them like working stuff out, figuring what they're comfortable with. But it's already like my kids are nothing like as daring as we were when we were kids. We had woods behind our house growing up and like we would be in there all day. And I don't know. I mean, we had some good instinct. There was like a drainage thing that was like water flowed through it. And I mean, my mom probably said like, stay away from the drainage thing when you're out playing, but we did too, like we did stupid stuff, but we never, we kind of figured out.
Well, I guess if you leave kids to it, this is a risk and this is a hazard, they're going to be able to figure out that line better for themselves, not only as adults, but as kids. They're going to know, yeah, that looks like a crazy idea. Hopefully, most of the time.
And they will and they won't. And the problem is like we cannot offer anybody any guarantees that if you allow more risk in that something bad won't happen. But the risk of like keeping your kids home and never letting them try anything and never letting them explore anything. I mean, again, I feel like I am the national endorser of the Boy Scouts, but Boy Scouts, they hand these kids knives. They're like, you make the fire. I mean, I just think it's great to find, if you're not great at this, find something that might be, martial arts might be good for pushing your kids in these ways. Like, you might need to outsource this if it's not something you're particularly good with. Like, it's not worth, if I'm inside, I'm like playing Candy Crush and chilling out and eating snacks. Like, I'm fine. But there might be moms who are like, I am too nervous when my kids are outside playing unsupervised. You might have to find a way to outsource this risk a little bit. Join the Boy Scouts, take up a sport.
Or the risky sports. There was a study done of teenagers, some of whom did what they called high stakes sports like kayaking and rock climbing, and others who did not. The ones who did the high stakes sports were less prone to vandalism, speeding, drinking, and other forms of what Dr. Sandcedar calls antisocial risk taking, the stuff you don't want them to be doing. They were less likely to do that when their appetite for risk was satisfied. And some kids have a greater appetite for risk, right? I mean, I have a daredevil child. All 3 of my kids are very good skiers because my husband taught them. I'm terrible. It's gotten to the point where it's like, I can't even look. Like, I'll see you guys at the bottom. I can't watching you guys daredevil through some slaloms. It is not.
No,
I could watch it on a phone. I can't watch it in real life. It's too scary for me. But I know I need to remove myself from that situation then because I don't want to tell them they can't do what they're loving. And anyway, I have one kid in particular who just flies down the mountain and it like takes years off my life to witness it, but he's good at it. And he does make it to the bottom. And so it's not my job to tell him he should be more worried.
No. And I would even say, like, you don't even have to engage in high risk sports, whatever that means. But like, even regular sports are chock full of like these good lessons, which is like, sometimes the meanest kid wins. Sometimes, like, I feel like when we live in the world of like, everyone gets a turn and like, everyone gets, equal time and we're all great friends, like great lessons. And like, we should be good people, but it's good to expose your kids. And I think sports is kind of an easy way to do this, to like, sometimes the meanest kid wins. Sometimes the kid who cheats wins. Like, sometimes bad stuff happens. Sometimes you work really hard and you still don't win. Sometimes you work really hard and you win, but like a lot of times not too, and those kind of lessons, I feel like it helps you figure out adversity and what the world is really like. And the world is not really like everyone gets a trophy and everyone is equally as good and the best people win and the worst people get their comeuppance, which is another, like, going back to the book thing. It's like so many children's books now are kind of in that vein of like, well, everybody learns a lesson and the bad guy gets punished and the good guy. It's like, life is a little stranger than that.
Dr. Jim Taylor.
You love Dr. Jim Taylor, Amy.
Just to bring this home. I did. I mean, I really thought he has a lot to say in particular about this. He explains to me really clearly, like, why does this matter again? Why do I want my kids to be throwing more rocks? Because for these reasons. Self-esteem is sort of the last piece of this. We all want our kids to have good self-esteem, right? And so we've come at it from more of the point of view of like, let's bubble wrap them. Everybody gets a trophy. I'm going to protect you from anybody who tells you that you're not good enough or you can't do or you're, or the bad guys win, like you were saying. But the unconditional love isn't enough. He says that if your kids are going to grow up with self-esteem, they have to develop a sense of mastery over their world and confidence that they can handle it. And so we need to not protect them from adversity. We need to let them experience it, including the discomfort that comes with it, including the disappointment and the skin knees and the trips to the hand doctor.
For sure. And I think my problem was leaving the suburbs and going to New York City is like, I had gained mastery over a world and I was like, I am the master. And then I went to New York City and I was like, oh my God, I have gained mastery over like a postage stamp. And now I am in like the wide world and I have no mastery at all, but it's like you adjust to new environments.
Right. I guess that's, it's not bad that happened. It's just so, and then you gained mastery over it. And now like you can like New York or not, but it doesn't terrify you. You don't think, I don't know how to do this.
Right. There's so much to be said about this. I mean, we could do 9 episodes about it. And I think it's easy to say like, we need to be raising risk takers, but it's like, right, but not my kid. Right. But not my pickup truck. Right. But my kid's scared. Like, I think it's great to start thinking of like, where can you push the boundaries in your life? Whether that's reading scarier books, taking up a sport, joining Boy Scouts, letting them play outside for an hour a day without you. Like, can you find more places to take risks, not drop everything you're doing and let your kids play in a slag pile?
Mm-hmm. I think you solved it.
I think we solved it. I mean, we get why this is wrong, but the solutions are a little bit harder to get to.
A little bit trickier. Well, ages and stages, right? I've figured out some things thanks to this that I'm going to do a little differently.
Ages and stages. And we got to talk to Evangeline Lilly, which was very exciting.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was fun. My kids are really impressed.
It's a whole series. It's called The Squicker Wonkers. It helps kids of all ages face and talk about the darker sides of their own natures.
Yeah, check them out, guys. I think you'll really enjoy them. And I'll tell you what, the illustrations in them are
they're gorgeous.
So beautiful. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/whatfreshhellcast. Please join our Facebook group. We're having so many interesting discussions there with you guys.
We're also on Instagram at whatfreshhellcast and on Twitter at WFH Podcast.
And you can find all of Amy's studies and even my study that I talked about because I brought a study this week. So please go to whatfreshhellpodcast.com and check that out. And with that, guys, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
This is a Monday.com ad. The same Monday.com designed for every team. The same Monday.com with built-in AI, scaling your work from day one. The same Monday.com with an easy and intuitive setup. Go to Monday.com and try it for free.